All right, welcome everyone. I'm Brad with Steve's Real Food, and today we're joined by the wonderful Pam Roussell, founder of Perfectly Holistic, and someone who I enjoy immensely. So, Pam's been a fitness professional for over 35 years. She started studying holistic and natural medicine in 2005 and using it on her own cats, which inspired her to launch Perfectly Holistic in 2014, which is dedicated to improving the lives of cats. Welcome, Pam. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's always fun to talk about nutrition and especially cats.
Right, absolutely. Cats are your jam, right?
They're my babies. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I really wish I could have cats, but the rest of my family is so allergic that even a raw fed cat with the reduced allergens and all that, I don't want to risk it and make everyone else miserable just to feed my fancy.
Right, right. I know. They would hate you. That would not be
Right.
good. That would not go over well.
So how many cats do you have?
I currently have 4.
Wow. You got a
Yeah,
house full, huh?
I do. 2 of them are half sisters that turned 6 months old this weekend. So they're so
Adorable.
adorable. I know.
Yeah,
They're over
before
here
we hopped
playing.
on you.
So if you hear a lot of rustling in the background, they're over here playing.
Right. Um, so how did you get started in feline nutrition? What drew you into it?
Years ago, one of my friends was introduced to raw food by the holistic vet that she was seeing. And
Mhm.
she kept telling her, you've got to get your cats onto raw food. You got to get them onto raw food. And so being in that circle, I was watching and I'm like, I know I really need to, but I was just looking at dollar signs. I'm like, because I think I had probably 6 at the time, 6 cats. So I'm thinking, how am I going to afford raw food for 6 cats?
Right.
So I was feeding the dry food, the high
Mhm.
quality kibble dry food that we laugh about today,
Mm.
um, because I had 6 cats, right?
Mhm.
And before we knew better, that's what we did because that's what our parents did when we had cats growing up. So we always thought, well, it's food.
Mhm.
So over time, you start to learn and you start to do better. So I started introducing more of the wet food and doing a mixture of the wet and the dry. And I was watching my friends' cats just thrive on their raw food diet and going to a really cool store back in Houston that specialized in raw food. And I'm talking freezers everywhere. Now, they catered mainly to dogs.
Mhm.
So they had freezers full of bones and organs and you name it.
Yeah,
They
that's the
had
good
it.
stuff.
And then they
Mhm.
also had the brands, some frozen raw food brands, but they also had their own processing facility.
Wow.
Gross, yes, but they had their own prey model diets that they put in freezer containers, and you could buy those and then take them home and add your own stuff to make it complete and balanced, right?
Mhm.
So I ended up, here's what happened. I had a cat who had feline, they called it kitty bronchitis. His name
Mhm.
was Snow Bear. And he just seemed to struggle a lot with respiratory stuff. And his the x-rays of his lungs showed all these look like little particles, in the picture. And the vet said, there's really no cure for that. And I looked at him knowing what I knew, and I thought to myself, there is a cure, you just don't know what it is. So I went home, and I don't, you know what I think it was? I had a kitty pass away from kidney disease. How
Mhm.
many times does that happen before you have to wake yourself up and go, what the hell am I doing feeding
Way
these
too
cats dry
common.
food?
Mhm.
So that was a day I came home and I threw all the kibble in the garbage.
Wow.
I said, "You guys are not eating any more kibble anymore for the rest of your lives." And I
Mhm.
started them on the wet food, and then I started incorporating the dry the raw, like little bits of that prey model into their wet food just to get them used to that.
Mhm.
And I tell you, within 3 days, Snow Bear's cough dropped or reduced by 95%. Now,
Wow.
you tell me that that is not related to food, and I would disagree with you because I really feel like it was. I think it was the dust, it was probably mycotoxin, it was probably the sugar, it was probably a combination of all of those things. But when
Mhm,
you can see that dramatic of an improvement in a respiratory condition just by changing the diet in a few days, I was sold. I was like, holy cow, this is incredible. And what would it do for a healthy cat, right?
mhm. Right.
Imagine how good it is for them, much less a cat who was not so healthy and struggled. So that was a real eye opener for me.
Mhm.
Game changer.
It's incredible what happens when you take an animal that's been eating something wildly inappropriate for that specific animal and you give it the food that it should get. Just watching that transformation and seeing how fast it happens. It's
Absolutely. And to see
unbelievable.
their coat change, to see their eyes look better, their skin look better. They don't have the dandruff, they don't have the dull coats, they don't have the hairballs. It's like there is a transformation that takes place energetically, metabolically inside their little bodies. And all of a sudden their bodies are thanking you, going, "Oh, you're finally giving me something I can utilize," you
Right. Yeah.
know, versus this, what is this garbage, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah. A lot of processed cat foods out there. I mean, they're going to be a lot of carbohydrates.
yep.
You've mentioned sugars. It's going to be very dehydrating for the body. You mentioned
Mhm,
the mycotoxins as well. Those are toxins produced by molds. You find them a lot on stored goods like
mhm,
lentils, beans, corn, especially a lot of
mhm,
grains.
mhm.
And you kill the mold, you cook the food, but those mycotoxins stay on there, and they
Right.
can either slowly poison health, hurt the organs over years, or they can cause issues right away that can be pretty significant. And most of them are carcinogenic as well, so they can cause cancers.
Yes, yes, and I have learned since then
Mhm,
that even the grain-free kibbles that everybody tends to go, gravitate towards, that have the legumes, the lentils, the beans, and all of that. And when you dig into how those crops are harvested and
mhm,
sprayed with glyphosate, which is a known carcinogen,
mhm,
these pet food companies are not required to test for glyphosate residues, but these products are sold to the pet food industry and put into grain-free foods, whether that's canned or, ultra processed, whatever.
mhm,
So your pet is probably ingesting glyphosate as well. And then
mhm,
you know about the advanced glycation end products, which are the metabolic byproducts from high heating uh,
mhm,
and cooking, the cooking process that is in ultra processed and canned foods. So when you start to peel back the layers of the reality of the foods that we've been feeding our cats, it's there's a lot of guilt, you know?
right.
At
Yeah.
first, we're like, "Oh my god, I didn't know." Yes, we didn't know, but once
Right.
you know, you can start to make better choices,
Mhm.
you know?
So we covered a lot of reasons why you should not feed inappropriate foods, why you should not feed, especially dry food. We ragged on
Right.
dry food a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Canned food also, you're still going to see those high heat issues going on. You're still going to see contaminants coming in,
Yep.
and you still also don't see a great balance of protein and fat to carbohydrates usually for cats. So let's talk about, before we get on to other stuff, what does a good cat food look like? What should cats be eating?
Well, I always tell people this. Imagine a cat in the wild.
Mhm,
Where do they get their food? They do not go to the local grocery store and walk down the aisles and pick up a bag or a
mhm,
can, right? They're looking at prey. They're looking at fresh meat. That's what they're biologically designed to eat. And if
mhm,
you look at their biology, their physiology, how they're structured, from their digestive tract to the shape of their face, their jaws, all of their teeth,
mhm,
this is a carnivore. So we've got to learn to feed them like the carnivores that they are. And carnivores don't really have a biological need for any starches.
mhm,
So the small percentage of um, grasses or starch or greens or vegetables and things like that would have been in the stomachs of their prey, right?
Hmm.
So it's a very small percentage. And then, things like the fiber, they would eat the fur, they would eat the bones and things like that that help clean their teeth, that help move through their digestive tract and elimination and things like that. So when you start to see it from a biological perspective, it becomes very simple to go, oh, that's what you should be eating.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's something that we misunderstand sometimes is we say, "Okay, cats are carnivores, that's not up for debate." We all know at this point, we're pretty familiar with obligate carnivores.
Yep.
Um, but then we go and we find cans and things like that that have high content of meat,
Hmm.
high meat content. And we say, okay, this will feed a carnivore, but that's not all there is to it. It's not just the ingredients, it's the process as well. A cat doesn't go out there, like you said, and grab a bag. He's not going out and grabbing a can. He is going out and grabbing an animal. These are
Hmm.
some of the most amazing hunters on the planet. Cats are just is so incredible at what they do. They'll hunt 10 to even 20 times a day. They're just fantastic. And what
Hmm.
they're taking down every time, yes, is high meat content. You're getting some of that gut content. You're getting some fur, some feathers. You're getting the digestive tract stuff. But all of it is in natural form. And I always say this: food should be in cellular form.
Hmm.
That's what animals are kind of built off of these blueprints that have been developing over the past 2-3 billion years.
Hmm.
And those blueprints from the beginning were made to metabolize food in cellular form, made to eat things in real form, just like this.
Hmm.
This is a
Hmm.
form the body can recognize. It's full of vitamins and minerals that we can digest and actually use. And when you take that and try to synthesize it and break it down and change it and cook it, it's no longer biological food. It's no longer food for our cells. It's now just,
It's not
cheap energy.
recognizable.
Yes, absolutely. It's no
Yeah.
longer food in cellular form. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So we're sold. Cats should get actual food. They should get raw food. Um, I mean, even when you take meat and you introduce some heat to it, you are losing a bunch of nutrients. You're losing a bunch
Mhm.
of very fragile things that you would get in a raw diet that you would not get once you cook it.
Yeah.
So cats can be a little tricky though, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, just because that's the ideal diet for them, you go out, you grab a bag, you slap it in front of them, okay, it doesn't mean they'll eat it, right?
No, in fact, a lot of times pet parents just pull their hair out because they know they want to do better. So
Yeah.
they have these great intentions, right? And they go out and they buy this wonderful brand of raw food like Steve's, and they put the plate down, it's room temperature or whatever, and their cat walks over and sniffs it and looks at them like, what the hell is that, and walks away, and they're like, but you're supposed to like this stuff.
Right. This is your food. I
It's
heard
real
this is
food.
what you should eat.
So I tell them, you know what, we have to teach them what
Mhm,
food is because we've been teaching them that their food is something else. We've been teaching them that their food is this dry processed stuff in the bowl or this wet canned product. That's what they know. So
mhm,
we have to meet them where they are and we have to slowly introduce something new. So I tell people, like the Steve's Quest, the frozen or even the freeze dried that's in little tiny bite sizes.
mhm,
Pull a couple of those out of the freezer, let them thaw, and just start by putting one on the plate next to your cat's food and let them start to get used to the association of, oh, that's right next to my food. Let them start to get used to the smell
mhm,
because eventually they're going to go over there and they're going to smell it, they're going to lick it. And then
mhm.
eventually something in their brain clicks and says, oh my gosh, that's really good. I
Yeah.
like that. Or even just blending it into their current food.
Mhm,
But we have to introduce them. We have to teach them what food is because we've been teaching them something else. So
mhm.
it's like cats. I have to say, one of the vets that I worked with years ago, he has a great expression. He goes, when it's cats, it has to be their idea. And he's right. So we have to make them feel like it's their idea. We
I
have
love that. Yeah.
we have to outsmart them.
Right. Yeah. Um, and I love how you pointed out just setting a few nuggets on the side of the plate. Take them out,
Mhm.
thaw them out, set them on the side of the plate. No pressure, cat. Just
Yeah,
sit
don't
here.
pressure us.
Because at first it's weird, and everything new is weird at first, right? You know,
Mhm,
yeah, I
mhm.
don't know. I got kids, so I put new stuff on a plate, and they're like, I don't
You're
know what
like,
that is.
I'm
That
not
looks
eating
weird.
that.
Yeah, I'm not going to try that. But
Mm-mm.
eventually, if it's presented often, the new starts to become familiar.
Yes.
And your
Yes.
cat's a lot more likely to, like you said, give it a lick, give it a try, and say, "Oh man, this is
Mhm.
good." Yeah,
Mhm.
their
Yeah.
body can absolutely identify or analyze that and say, "Oh, there was some stuff in there that was good. I like that." Brain, eat more.
Yes. And even if you have to entice them by crumbling some of their kibble on top of this
Hmm.
something new, or a food topper, a freeze dried single source treat of some kind that you can crumble on top, whatever their favorite go to thing is, we have to entice them. Some,
Hmm.
bribery works sometimes. So whatever it takes, we have to get really creative.
Uh-huh.
But one of the most important things you can do if you are still feeding dry food and you want to make this transition is you have to pick up the all day buffet. You just do. Cats, if they know that there's an all day buffet and they can come and go and graze all day like cows, then they have zero incentive to eat when you put it down in front of them
Hmm.
later. They're like, no, I'll just go back to my all day buffet.
Yeah.
So we have to be smart about how we transition, and we have to understand that cats are not designed to be grazers.
Hmm.
Like you were describing, they hunt several
Hmm.
times a day and then they rest.
Yeah.
It's sometimes they don't catch something, but they'll go out and try several times
Hmm.
a day. But cats may go 12 hours without eating something, but I think that's a good thing sometimes because it gives their digestive system time to rest,
Hmm.
and that's when they're building new tissue, that's when their bodies are healing. Um, if they're constantly eating all the time, their metabolic system never gets a break.
Hmm. And I love that you mentioned that, a small break from eating is really good for the gut. I do
Mhm.
also want to piggyback on that. For cats, never try starvation as a
No,
transitioning technique, though, because it simply won't work.
no,
They'll put up a wall, they won't eat, and that can become an emergency really fast with
yeah.
cats within a few days, not
Mhm.
within 12 hours, but within a few days that can become a problem.
Yeah, they can be martyrs.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. They will still stick to their guns,
They
100%.
will.
Yeah. So try to make it familiar, trick them into it a little bit, roll, like you mentioned, crumble some of their kibble onto it, add some of their favorite treat to it to entice them to eat it, entice
Mhm.
them to give it a try. Once they will eat a little bit of it, what do you recommend doing from there?
You start to increase the new and decrease the old,
Hmm.
so every couple of days as they're progressing, you
Hmm.
just keep giving them more of the new stuff and you take more of the old stuff away until finally you have this brand new bowl that's all the raw or all the new food that you want to feed them.
Hmm.
And you just go at their pace. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely. Yeah. If you run into tummy trouble, anything like that,
back
slow
up.
it down, walk it backwards a little, and feel free to take it slow. I have
Mhm.
friends who this process has taken months for. You
Yes.
know, it's
Yes.
being consistent and being patient. There's no rush here.
Yes, and I will tell you, I work in the energy field.
Hmm.
So my secret weapon, if you will, is energy work
Hmm.
because I have figured out how to clear energetically these blocks that cats have to going from dry to wet or going from wet to freeze dried or wet to raw food.
Hmm.
So if we can clear those energetic blocks, it it makes them more open and receptive and more allowing their taste buds to transition, their stomach to transition and be more open to changing. That is a game changer. That can speed up the process like you have no idea.
Wow. So
It's
how do
amazing.
people at home take advantage of that? How do they tap into that? Do they reach out to somebody like you? Is
Yeah,
there some tip you can give people who are struggling with this right now?
call me.
That's the best tip there is. Just give me a
You
call.
know
I'll
what?
help you out.
I
Yeah.
just, you have to do some clearing, some
Yeah.
energy clearing work. But that has been a game changer for a lot of the people that I've worked with,
Mhm.
100%. So
Yeah.
you can go slow. You can take 6 months or a year, or you can fast track it. It's totally up to you.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yep.
If any of the folks who are on right now have an interesting story about transitioning or
Yeah.
struggled
I
for a
don't
little
know.
bit, I'd love to see it up there in the chat.
Hmm.
So I feel like you, Pam, probably have a lot of stories to share about cats, right? Do you have a favorite?
You know what? The ones that are you talking like for food and raw food stuff, or just
Really, I would love to hear any. Yeah, of course, food and raw food is what I'm interested in, but if you have something that goes outside of that arena that's just like, I have to tell this, I would love to hear it.
well, like I shared Snow Bear's story because I want people to understand how
Mhm.
foundational proper nutrition is and what a
Mhm.
game changer it can be if your cat has a condition of some kind and you haven't given the raw food or a better quality diet an opportunity to present itself.
Yeah.
That's huge. If you have a cat who is vomiting a lot and they're on dry food, it's probably the starches,
Mhm.
honestly. It could be other things as well, but that can certainly contribute to the vomiting because cats just don't, their bodies don't know what to do with all this sugar. They're, the starches and everything. And so that's why you get the vomit and it looks like a whole log of the
Right.
cat food that they just ate,
Yeah.
with all the little shapes and colors because
Oh,
their bodies are just like, I don't know what to do with that. So here you go.
I need a
You can
break.
have
Yeah, spit it back out. We got to
that.
figure out what on earth this stuff is, right?
Right, right. The I do have a client that I worked with about a year and a half ago. She was so like adamant about getting her cats onto raw food. It was a dream to have her cats on a raw food diet, and she had been on wet food when in again she was on a really good quality wet food, good brand and everything, but she's like, "Oh, I just really want my cats on raw. I just know they would do so much. They would be better health wise and coat wise and all of this." She has beautiful rag dolls,
Mhm.
and so I did some work with them and the energy clearing work, they were transitioned within 2 weeks.
Wow.
And she was, I mean, she still looked back and she was like, I cannot believe my cats are eating raw food. And to this day, they don't eat canned food. They eat raw diets. And I would also say that just because your cat didn't like the raw food that you offered them,
Mhm.
sometimes you have to try different brands. Sometimes you have to try different proteins,
Mhm.
different textures, right? Because every cat's different. And depending on where the company is sourcing their ingredients, sometimes rabbit tastes different if it's United States rabbit versus overseas rabbit, if
Mhm.
it's a Canadian chicken versus South Texas chicken. So they may have just different tastes, similar, but your cat may just need to go to a different brand. And every recipe, like Steve's, I mean, you guys are awesome because you use minimal ingredients and whole food sources. Some of these other companies, no, there's nothing wrong with it, but they may have to use some synthetics.
Mhm.
Sometimes the ingredient, maybe there's an ingredient or two in this recipe that your cat just like, "Bleh, I just don't like that ingredient," but you don't realize that.
Mhm.
So trying different brands, and I know that can be expensive. So if you can find a small bag, don't invest in a big bag, but buy the smallest bag you can and
Mhm.
try it, because
Mhm.
every recipe is going to taste different based on what's in there.
That's a great point, and especially when you're first bridging the gap for a cat
Yeah.
from wet food to raw, or
Yeah.
from dry food to raw.
Yeah.
Um, you may have to move around a little bit to find one that they'll try. But if you have one at home right now, again, also be patient with it. Take your time with it. Keep
Yeah.
trying it for a little while. Sometimes it takes a little while for that new to become familiar. But I agree. Yeah, if it's like, man, I just feel like this is going nowhere, try a different flavor.
I just tell people don't quit. You will want to quit before your cat will quit, because your cat will
100%.
just, they can be a martyr like we were talking about. So
Yeah.
you have to have it in your mind that you are determined and you are patient and that you can outlast them. So we just have to be creative, right? We have to be consistently trying and always trying to take a step forward. Even if you take a step forward and have to take a step back, just
Right.
keep going, because I guarantee you will get there. Like you said, some cats take 6 months, a year, some cats take weeks, some cats take days.
Right.
Every cat's different.
Mhm.
So I heard a really cool, this is a cool story. Dr. Amaya Espindola from Spain. She's a cat vet. She's amazing. But she and I were talking one time, and she said a lot of times we were talking about raw diets and nutrition and all that. And she said so many cat parents get so anxious about the whole process of transitioning to better foods, better diets, raw food specifically. And so when we are putting all of that energy, this anxiety and stress over their food as we're preparing, and we're thinking to ourselves, what if they don't like it? Oh my gosh, I'm spending all this. It's like negative chatter, negative energy going into that bowl. And then you put it down in front of them, and the cat's looking at you like, what's wrong with it? If
And you're
you're that
sitting there
nervous
watching
about
them. Are they going to eat it? Are they going to
what's
eat it this
wrong
time?
with it? Yes. So I think it's important as cat parents who want to make these transitions that we have to check our energy at the door.
Right.
We have to put as much love into that bowl and positivity. And I think if you can go into it with this set your intention, like, I am transitioning my cat to a raw diet, period, end of story. See it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Envision that every day. Put love into that bowl. Pray over that bowl. Whatever you have to do to have that positive mindset, because that energy just permeates the bowl, the food, the experience, and then you put it down and you don't sit there and hover or like look
Right.
around the corner with the anxiety, like, are they eating it? Are they eating it?
Yeah.
You put it down and walk away and go, you know what? If they eat it today, they do. If they do, if they don't, okay, we'll just try again next meal. We just have to have that positive expectation, because if you go into it thinking it's not going to work, you're right.
I love that. Yeah. And I love the point you made. A watched pot never boils. I guarantee when you were feeding your cats before you started transitioning to raw, you didn't set it down and sit and wait for them and watch to see if they ate it
No.
expectantly and with your heart pounding. You set it down, you probably went off and did something else. And so
Yeah,
when
because
you're
you're like, I
transitioning,
got stuff to do. Here's your food. I
same
got to
thing.
move on.
Right. Absolutely. I don't need to operate your mouth for you. You do it. Here's your food. I'm going off to do something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, remember
Yeah.
to detach.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's important to just remember what kind of energy we're putting into it.
Yeah.
Because our
I love
cats
that.
are little energy sponges, and they will pick up everything,
They're
for
very
good or
sensitive.
for bad,
Yeah.
you know?
So what should cat parents look for in a cat food? If they're looking at raw cat foods, I mean, there are a lot of great raw cat foods out there, but
Mhm.
there are probably some things that you don't really like to see as much. I'm curious, what do you look for? What are your favorite things to see? We won't focus on the negative. What's your favorite things to see?
I like to see a very small ingredient list
Mhm.
and whole food ingredients as much as possible. So if you're turning that bag around and reading the label, if you see a very long ingredient list, there's probably a lot of synthetics in it,
Mhm.
or a premix to some degree that was added to that food. It's not to say it's bad food, but if you want to go more of a food-based nutrition for their vitamins and mineral content, things like that, then the shorter the ingredient list, the better, and words that you can actually pronounce and know what they are. you know That would be one of my preferences.
Mhm.
But again, you know what? At the end of the day, your cat has to eat it. So if
Right.
your cat likes the one with the longer list and the premix in it, great. Start with that. Start with that, and then over time you can introduce different brands, different types. And I think it's good, Brad, also to rotate, right?
Mhm.
So
100%. Yeah.
rotate your brands because God forbid your cat will only eat one flavor of one brand. And what happens if they discontinue that?
Or if it changes, or if
Or if it
seasonally it
changes.
changes. Between harvests, flavors change a little bit,
Yeah.
nutrient profiles shift just a small amount. Cats can be sensitive to that. So I
Yeah.
totally agree. Help your cat become flexible.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And it builds their nutrient diversity in their microbiome.
Mhm.
So we can broaden their palate, we can broaden their microbiome at the same time, which is wonderful.
Mhm.
Um, as far as other things I love the mom and pop companies, the small companies like Steve started, like other small companies versus the big pet food companies that spend all their money on marketing and TV commercials. I don't really like to support them as much because
Mhm.
their values may not be the same as mine.
Mhm.
So it's cool to when you can align with a company that has or shares some of the same values that you do, as far as how important it is to source, how they source their foods. What's their philosophy?
Mhm.
Do they want to be um, cutting corners, you know, to save a few bucks here and there on their product and their manufacturing? Or do they really want good, high quality organic ingredients? Um, those kinds of things are
I
are some of the things that I look for too.
I 100% agree. So I ran stores before this, and for me, it always went beyond the bag. It was never just, okay, what's in the bag? What are the
Yeah.
ingredients? It's where are these coming from?
Yeah.
Who is making this? What future am I voting for by buying this product?
Mm-hmm.
I always say, the only way standards are going to get better tomorrow, we want better sourcing across the board, right? We want
Yeah.
better sustainability. Oh my God, more eco-friendly foods and companies. And if
Yeah.
we want that stuff, we have to look beyond the bag and support those who are doing well today.
And I will add one more thing to that. What's their customer service like?
Yeah.
Because if you have a question about a brand that you're feeding,
Hmm.
and you call that company up or you send them an email and you ask if they have a nutritional profile, is that what it's called?
Hmm.
The Where they list, all of the nutrients that's in their food and their percentages and the amounts and things like that. How friendly are they? Are they willing to share information with you? Do they do third party testing, and how often, and things like that? Are they transparent when something goes wrong and they have to do a recall? Is that because the FDA came in and made them do a recall, or did they catch an error because of
Hmm.
sourcing or something in advance and they just let their customers know because they want to be transparent? So think about that when
Hmm.
you're choosing companies that you support too, because I think that says a lot about who you're supporting.
Yeah. Feeding your pets, just like feeding your kids, is a very trusting, trust-based process.
Absolutely.
And so you have to trust these folks. I
Absolutely.
totally agree with you. Yeah, I know several companies out there. You can't even get a hold of a customer service person. They're just like,
No.
it doesn't exist. You send an email. Good luck getting a response. And
Right.
that's something we're really proud of, actually, at Steve's. We have an amazing customer service team. Uh,
Yes, and I actually did reach out to one of the, I'll say, reputable companies that's been
mhm,
around for many years because I had a question about the percentage of animal protein versus vegetable protein or plant protein that they
mhm.
used in one of their wet food products, um, concerning legumes, and they wouldn't give me an answer.
Wow.
It wouldn't give me an answer. I'm like, how? What percentage is this? Because you're just lumping all of your protein as a total protein, but I know based on the ingredients in here that you're including some of the protein amount from the plant product, and it's not
Right.
all animal protein. And they wouldn't give me an answer, and that was very disappointing. I'm
Mhm.
like, hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Transparency is a big thing. Trust. It all comes down to trust.
It really does, because at the end of the day, they're our babies.
Yes.
We're putting our babies' health and well-being in their hands, basically based on what we're feeding them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, we care so much. We would do anything for these cats.
Right. Yes, I know.
We just want them to have the best quality health and life that they can have. And nutrition is such an important part of that. It's foundational.
It is. Absolutely. It's one of the most important pillars,
Yep.
which I'd like to talk about next, a few of the other ones, just right before we sign off, because we're going long today, and that's fine with me. I always love to chat for way too long.
Oh, it's fun.
Brad, you got to cut it down. It's too long, but there's so much to talk about. So before we go too far, I did promise I would give away a bag of Quest to some lucky cat parent. Yay. And so right now, before we discuss our next point, if you would like to be entered in that drawing for a free bag of Quest, just comment on this video right now. And in just a little bit, once we've collected some comments, I'll do a drawing and we'll see who gets to take it home.
Awesome.
So as we're waiting, besides food, what are a couple other important things that we need to think about to help our cats out?
I would suggest thinking about what kind of proactive wellness that you can incorporate, adding fresh foods into their diets, omega-3s, supplements, maybe pulsing some milk thistle, probiotics, things like that. What can we do to add to their bowl? If you're not fully able to do some raw food, how can we benefit the current food that they're feeding? How can we add something fresh and healthy into that bowl?
No, that's a great point. Another thing I always like to point out is, you have your conventional veterinarians, of course, but reaching out, finding a good holistic veterinarian to help support, because a holistic vet they won't look at a symptom. They won't try to remediate a symptom or anything. They'll look at the entire animal and they'll take their well-being into account and everything. And that can be a great person to have on your team, especially before you need them.
Right.
Just to have helping you manage that health rather than helping you fix something when things go wrong.
Yes. And there's an online resource, ahvma.org, if you need to find or search for an integrative or holistic vet in your area. You can just type in your zip code and it'll pull up all the doctors in your area and what they specialize in. I think finding that partner with your vet is so valuable. When you find a good vet who has your back, whether you feed raw, whether you don't feed raw, who aren't going to look at you like you got three heads when you walk in and say, I'm a raw feeder, and I supplement with this, just understand that you may know more about nutrition than some of these vets do. So if you can find somebody who supports you and your values, they're gold. They're gold.
I totally agree. And, you can still have your conventional vet who lives right down the street from you.
Yep.
And many holistic vets will even do telemeetings. You don't have to live that close to them. You can meet them just like this, sitting at your computer. You can talk to them on the phone.
Yes.
Send them information. There's somebody else to consult with who can help you with some of the more difficult and larger picture stuff. 100%. Another thing I always like to think about is lifestyle too. Make sure you're taking some time to spend time with your cat and play with them. I know we all get so busy and I forget to play with my dogs as much as I should sometimes. I sit here talking about dogs and then forget to play with my own sometimes. So, providing that good lifestyle, interacting with them, having some fun, giving them some hunting opportunities to exercise their senses. I think that's another really important pillar for cats. Enrichment.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When we started, I had my two kittens in here and they're playing. Now they're all quiet, so they're probably sleeping. But yes, I mean, it's so important. They do have that hunt, catch, kill, eat drive, so we have to honor that wiring. You know, they're biologically wired a certain way, so they can get bored pretty easily. So yes, it may not be always convenient for us, but it's such a great bonding time if we can just carve out 10 or 15 minutes once or twice a day and just have a good play session and bond with them, you know, spend some time with them. They absolutely thrive on that connection.
I totally agree. Yep.
It's so awesome.
All right, guys. So I promised we'd give away some food, and let's do it. I'm going to share my screen right now. This is always one of my favorite parts. Let me push some buttons over here. There we go. All right. So hopefully everyone who wants the opportunity has had a chance to enter, and I'm going to push this button, and we'll see who gets to take home a bag of Quest.
Cool.
All right. Teeny Marie, congratulations. That is a great big cat next to you. Adorable. So Teeny Marie, please send us a Facebook message with your name and your address. And we will continue the conversation from there. It's always easiest when you shoot us a message first. So please shoot that over to us. Mr. Kovu. Oh, he is adorable. Congratulations, Teeny. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. And thanks to everyone else for joining us today. This was a lot of fun. I love talking cats almost as much as I love talking dogs. And thank you so much, Pam. It has just been a ton of fun, and I always love hanging out with you. You're just...
I missed you at Super Zoo this year. You have to go next year.
I'll probably I'll try to make that happen. It would be nice to catch up in person.
Yeah.
So before we go, what are you doing right now? I mean, not literally right now. I know what you're doing right now, but what are you up to now? I know you're working on a podcast, at least one. I know you have some other cool stuff going on. Where can people learn more from you?
Well, right now I am doing a research project to build a program to help cats with FHS symptoms so they can learn to be empowered, how to be empowered to know exactly how to help their cats, because a lot of vets just don't have much information. There's not a lot of research on FHS type symptoms. And so I have a passion for helping this segment of the cat world who is floundering and feeling helpless, and they just don't want to use medication for their cat the rest of their life. They want to find the root cause. They want to help their cats get better. And so I really need to talk to a bunch of people so that I can help design the type of program that they would get the most out of. So if you know someone, or if perhaps you are that person yourself, book a call with me, because I really I want to learn your journeys and what you're struggling with and what you need. So that's kind of what my focus is right now. You can find me at purrrfectlyholistic.com. You can send me an email at pam@purrrfectlyholistic.com. And then here's one of my girls. She's one of my babies.
Oh,
Breeze. She should come say hi. So what are you doing? Say hi, baby. Hi, baby. There she is.
She is so cute.
She is so sweet. She's come to say hi.
Right. I just wanted to stop by. Goodbye.
Yeah, she's down here. But yeah, that's what we're doing.
Very cool.
We're putting together some more podcasts, the Pet Health Junkies podcast. We just met the other day and came up with a whole bunch of other topics. So we'll be putting together some more shows soon.
Awesome. Well, I love that you guys are out there pumping out really good education, because I think that is just the battle right now. Is it's just education, getting really good information out there so people can learn more and learn to care for these animals the way we need.
Because when you know better, you can do better, right?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Pam. I've loved hanging out with you. Thank you, everyone who hung out with us, especially for the entire time. It was a lot of fun today.
Yep.
And I hope to talk to you before too long, Pam.
Sounds good. We'll do it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, for the rest of you guys, go play with your cats. Go have some fun, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.